This is going to be a really hot take, but I don't think the American electorate actually cares about policy. And while I think policy is obviously very important, I do disagree with the sentiment right here. Now, the reason I disagree is because I think how you message and the messenger is way more important, especially when it comes to winning federal elections. As we saw in the last election, Trump won over moderates not because of his policy, which he didn't give any. He won because of slogans like "No New Wars" when he was president and "I'm gonna defend the border." And the reason I know they don't care about policy is because the policies that Trump actually talked about were not beneficial for them. You had farmers and union workers voting for a man who was anti both those things. What they really cared about was that Trump made them feel good. And I think that same thing applies to the left as well. For example, if you look at her policy, I don't think it was actually that unpopular. In fact, I think it was actually pretty popular, especially among Democrats. If you look on her policy on healthcare, immigration, crime, the environment, social policies, and yes, even foreign policy. With some of her least popular policy positions among Democrats being anti-fracking, anti-Second Amendment restrictions, and increasing the number of refugees allowed into the country. Now yes, you also have some unpopular positions that she was too far right on, such as capping the number of migrants to cross unlawfully at 5,000 a day. Which, to be fair, that number was much higher than the average it was during the Biden administration. But yeah, this just goes to show that a lot of her policies were actually pretty popular when polled by Democrats. And to say that Democrats weren't enthusiastic about her campaign, I think is a mistake as well, when polling showed that she had more support from Democrats than Trump had from Republicans. I think the actual issue with her campaign was her messaging. While I think Kamala Harris is a good messenger in general, I think the campaign really limited her and Tim Walz's ability to be themselves. This is why you'll see the DNC chair Ken Martin talk a lot about authenticity. Because I think the biggest issue for Democrats isn't that their policies are unpopular, it's that their candidates come across as almost these sort of establishment robots with no personalities. And I actually want to address this comment right here, because this guy brings up Zoran, but I think for the wrong reason. I don't think Zoran is popular because he proposed government-run grocery stores or rent control. In fact, those policies that are designed to help lower-income, usually non-white communities, were the two communities he really struggled to gain support from during his primary. I think the reason Zoran is so popular is because he's a cool guy with a good message that comes off as very authentic. He also comes off as one of the most important things that I forgot to mention is that people want a fighter, and Zoran is a fighter. He gives people faith that he will represent them and fight against authoritarian overreach and protect his constituents. On a similar level, I think this is why Gavin Newsom is so popular right now. Now, I know this for a fact because of the last couple of videos I made on Gavin Newsom that you all hate his policy. But it's undeniable that he's very popular right now, and I think that's because he's been really good at messaging and communicating, and he's been showing that he's fighting back against the Trump administration. This is what people actually want to see. While policies might help, what matters most is that people want hope. They want to trust that you're going to represent them. They want to trust that you will protect them from authoritarian overreach. The Trump administration is not popular. And I think the real reason Democrats aren't popular right now either is because they're not showing their constituents that they're willing to fight for them and combat the Trump administration.
Republicans want Democrats' help in fucking over 22 million Americans. And they're saying if we don't help them in that, then they're going to shut down the government because of their total inability to govern. This is a Republican-led shutdown that they have gotten themselves into, and Democrats cannot help them get out of. Because if we pass the current resolution that Congress has in front of them to keep the government open, it will result in 22 million Americans losing subsidies for the Affordable Care Act that has ensured that they are able to afford their actual health care. If Democrats give them the votes to keep the government open with this current bill, it will result in millions of people either losing their health care or in them paying ridiculously more. And we cannot be complicit in that. We need to ensure that Republicans are owning this, and all the damn time. As we know, Republicans love to go on and on, or Democrats love to go on and on, rather, about writing our strongly worded letters and saying, like, oh, we're in the minority, we can't do anything. This is something we can do, because Republicans have to save themselves here, and if they can't, prove it to the American people that they can't govern and let them own that. We should not save them.
People need to realize that Trump supporters do not care if Trump lies to them. They do not care. And the Project 2025 thing is a great example where Trump swore up and down that he didn't even know what Project 2025 was. And then here he is admitting that he is following that playbook. Obviously, we all knew that, but a lot of Trump supporters told us that we were being dramatic and that liberals and the left were fear-mongering and stuff like that. But now that it's actually happening, they'll look you dead in the eye and say, oh, I actually agree with that. They'll do that with abortion rights, gay rights, trans rights, etc. They'll just keep doing that. They'll tell you that, oh, that would never happen. But then when it does happen, they'll look you in the eye and say, well, I actually support that. It'll happen over and over and over again. But this is just a reminder that this is one of many examples that prove that they do not care that Trump lies to them. They don't care. That's perfectly fine with them, and that is how cults work.
Wow, the verdict is in. 71% of Americans support us Democrats and what we're fighting for during this government shutdown. This is bad news for Donald Trump, which is probably why he's hiding. And just listen to Rich McCormick start to panic on national television.
7 in 10 Americans side with Democrats in saying Obamacare subsidies should be extended. We're joined now by Republican Congressman Rich McCormick of Georgia. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. It's a really interesting poll because it shows a lot more people are blaming the president and congressional Republicans than Democrats. Yes, there are a lot of people who aren't really sure what to think at this point, but how are you seeing this?
Well, first of all, I've seen polls all over the place. It depends on how you poll. Literally, last night I was listening to another liberal media station that had it flipped upside down, and the guy who was being interviewed said, "No, that's just the way we phrased it in the polling." Polling is not very accurate because the pollsters generally get out of it what they want. Depending on how you phrase the question is, you'll get exactly the question you're looking for, the answer that you're looking for. So I don't trust those polls. In my district, which is in the area that I live in, very much a toss-up, most people understand that this CR is the compromise.
Wow, did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? A bunch of lies. Let me understand. Let me explain. No, we don't want to hear what MAGA has to say. What we want MAGA to do is go into the White House and tell their dear leader, stop golfing and open up the government so that Americans can get back to doing the work that they do to save this great country of ours. And quit trying to use the American people as hostages during this entire fiasco. We want health care to be affordable in this country, MAGA. And we're not buying this narrative that, oh, you're just giving it to the people who are in the country undocumented. No, because even if you were doing that, I don't think it should warrant us shutting the entire government down, having airplanes flying and crashing into each other, getting our situation with our national security put in a worse state. This is disgusting. This is disgraceful. And I am so glad that the majority of Americans are seeing through Donald Trump's BS. All right. So Donald Trump, listen up. Open up the government. All right. Because like you said before, when the government shuts down, we blame who? The president, not Democrats.
Hello everyone, it's Anthony. Welcome back to my channel. So MAGA Americans are turning on Democrats for help, and that's the title of this video. So watch till the end, and I will be making our conclusions. It's a nice evening we are having here. A nice evening I'm enjoying, except for MAGA farmers. So let's continue watching, and we'll make our conclusions at the end of the video. Guys, watch with an open mind. It's Anthony.
Trump wants to use Democratic cities as training grounds for the military. Yes, that's not a joke. That's not a drill. That's not me gaslighting. That is what he said. He told Petey Boy we should use the most dangerous cities in America as training ground for the military. We're already going into Chicago. We're going to go into New York. We're going to go into San Fran. When the fuck did the military turn on its own people? And these dangerous cities are heavily populated with African Americans, black folks, and San Fran is LGBTQIA plus loving. He's trying to get ahead of the election, y'all. The 2026 election, he's trying to get ahead of the midterms. And he wants to put these cities on lockdown. I know there are a lot of military men that don't give a shit about the oath. I know that. Let's not play this game. Some of them did vote for him. And they will do what he says out of racism, out of hate, out of xenophobia, out of homophobia. They will do what he says. But for the ones that didn't vote for this man, for the ones that took the oath for the United States of America and not a sitting president, please, and I do mean please, don't forget that shit. Your duty is to your country and not towards a man that's gonna be gone. He's in his 80s. And targeting heavily populated African American black cities has always been his plan. I don't know how it's gonna turn out, but I do know as people who took an oath to protect this country, this is not what y'all doing. This ain't it.
So I want to be clear. Democrats are asking for pretty much one thing, and that's to keep the Affordable Care Act tax credits that help millions of Americans pay for health care. They are all willing to crash the government, to furlough workers, to stall paychecks and gut services, all to cover up the fact that they do not want you to keep your health care affordable. Did you hear what I said? They're doing all of this to cover up the fact that they do not want you to keep your health care affordable. How fucked up is that? Aren't they supposed to be about the working class people, average everyday people? Rich people don't have to worry about that. They can afford, if something happens, they can afford health care. Most of them have it already anyways.
President Donald Trump is meeting with the co-author of Project 2025 today, Russ Vought, to determine how to take advantage of the government shutdown and cut agencies that are, quote, too woke or democratic, as enumerated by Project 2025. After repeatedly denying he had any affiliation with Project 2025 on the campaign trail, despite almost his entire administration being hired straight from Heritage Foundation, the author of Project 2025, Donald Trump is now embracing that. Government shutdown, which is being blamed by the Republicans on the Democrats, despite the Democrats not having the Supreme Court stacked, or the White House or Congress, seems to be intentional, a way of blaming the Democrats while being able to cut all of the Democratic agencies. Reminder that Project 2025 is just the nickname of the document Mandate for Leadership, which is a conservative document outline for each Republican president since Ronald Reagan that was drafted by the Heritage Foundation back in the 80s. It gets updated every year. This year's version is called Project 2025, but it is not new. This is their agenda for the Conservative Party.
We're officially living in a police state. From the Oxford Dictionary, a totalitarian state controlled by a political police force that secretly supervises the citizens' activities. That's right, you heard me. ICE now has the ability to track our phones. They have the ability to turn on our camera and look at us. They have the ability to open up our microphones and listen to us. The entire thing. They have the ability to go into our phones and look what we're doing. They have the ability to see what we're searching, the ability to see what we're saying. Not only that, but Donald Trump is actively suppressing free speech, which we've all been talking about, right? The internet's been blowing up over what happened recently. And people are boycotting Disney for it, as they should be. Boycotting Hulu, boycotting ABC, boycotting ESPN+. Please, please, please go do that if you're not already. This is the only way we can show these people. And the Trump administration is planning on using Palantir to take this 10 steps further. We are losing control of our democracy right now. Every moment matters. Here's the call to action. I need you to write your representative. I need you to call your representative. I need you to text them. I need you to email them, carrier pigeon, smoke signal. I don't care how you get in touch, but you need to get in touch and tell them this is unacceptable. And if they don't do something or vote against this or raise a bill to stop this, then you are not going to vote them into power next election. And if they're afraid they're going to lose their job, let me tell you, they're going to do what they need to do. Because politicians, they love to hold power. Which is exactly why my campaign stands for term limits, because we shouldn't let politicians hold power for as long as they possibly do. My name is Kyle, and I'm running for Congress in the 2nd District of Connecticut. Please go to my website, kylegauk.com. You can learn a lot more about our policies there. Please follow along if you're not doing so already. Please donate if you can. Less than a coffee really helps. We stretch every dollar we can. We don't take Israel money. We don't take, which we'll make a whole video about other candidates that are. And we don't take corporate money. It's just you and me, completely grassroots funded. And as always, if you made it this far, thank you. I love you, and we'll definitely talk soon.
You know what I'm thinking about? How we have another generation of farmers that think that they deserve welfare. Because listen, one of the things my parents, my grandparents, my church family, my uncles and aunts taught me was, don't depend on the government. Go get a job where you're not dependent on the government and you can take care of yourself and your family and so forth, right? How do we have in 2025 farmers asking for welfare? They call it bailout, but it's welfare. They're asking for welfare even though another generation of farmers have bought into the lies of Republicans and voted for the party that has policies that specifically harm them. How do you go from farm aid back in the 80s with Willie Nelson and all those country singers raising money for farmers because Ronald Reagan's policies harmed them, and now all these years later, another couple generations later, they're 3-time voters for Donald Trump. His policies harm them, and they're online begging for welfare again. Because listen, the Project 25 people knew what they were going to do. And it was all spelled out. Kamala Harris said during the debate, look up this, look up Project 25. It's all right there. They knew they were going to cut U.S. aid. U.S. aid, there are some farms that grow food specifically and exclusively for U.S. aid that is distributed around the world. The government pays them to grow that food, they grow it. And they got stuff rotting in the fields, and they voted for him despite the fact that he was saying he was going to get rid of many of their workers. And some of them sat back, and a lot of people are saying this, some of them sat back and were saying, it's okay, because black people will be out in those fields again. Honey, let me tell you something. My auntie say, child, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. That was never going to happen, and it never will. And so now they're begging for help. They're begging for government welfare, another generation, even though they could have learned from the prior generation, from the prior generation, from the prior generation. So that whole thing about insanity and doing the same thing over and over, you get what you get because you got what you got. Stop being stupid, farmers. Like, that's the message that needs to be delivered to the farm crowd. And you know what? I'm not talking about black farmers, because black farmers vote for Democrats. And when Donald Trump bailed out farmers his last administration because he messed them up, he purposely excluded black farmers. Those white farmers didn't speak up for those black farmers. Black farmers had to sue. The Biden administration got in, him and Kamala Harris. They awarded that money to the black farmers, and the white farmers sued and said that was reverse discrimination. So you know what? Said a lot. But maybe y'all got to start teaching y'all farmers not to depend on welfare. How about that?
Right now, I am volunteering with the Sacramento Central Labor Council to door knock and canvass in support of Proposition 50, which is the Election Rigging Response Act. This is California's response to Donald Trump asking Republicans to gerrymander away Democratic seats because his policies are so unpopular that they know that they're going to lose the House. So please, vote yes on Prop 50 and volunteer to sign up and help us out.
Thank you everyone for reaching the end of this video. It's amazing if you have been watching my videos. So let's discuss the first topic, healthcare. Healthcare is what Democrats have been fighting for in this bill or in this government funding. And why are Democrats fighting for this? Because this is what their constituents are sent them to the Congress to do. And you know, if they don't pass this thing, when they go back to these town halls, their voters ask them questions. What is in for us in this funding? These Democrats are House representatives. They tell them, tax cuts for billionaires, billions for Israel, billions for what? For the wall, billions for Argentina. These voters asked, what about us? So that's why there is this massive standoff between Trump and the Democrat leadership in both houses, because there are questions being asked. So let me put this clear. In this low income or these poor red states, whereby medical care is mostly got from these federally held qualified centers, which depend on government subsidies, which Trump is cutting, will affect Maga Republicans greatly, because these clinics really treat people who have low income. So when they are out of business, most people will not be able to afford healthcare. So that's what Democrats are fighting for. And now Trump is flipping the coin. He is claiming that Democrats want medical funding for illegals, which in all logic is wrong, in all logic isn't true, except for people who don't know how the government works. And again, which illegals is Trump talking about when he deported them? Trump claims that he has done massive deportations. So why is he using illegals as a pretext for not funding healthcare? Yes, because We have ICE agents all over our country. So illegal immigrants should not be an excuse for not funding healthcare. Or maybe the money we are sending over to Israel, we can use them to fund healthcare for us Americans, who are the taxpayers. The money we are sending to Egypt, Lebanon, to maybe to where, to wherever we are sending, the money we are giving Elon Musk, the money, even tax cuts we are giving to billionaires, a half of that we can use to fund healthcare for all Americans, right? And maybe we can all agree on that. You can be asking on identification number or whatever you ask to prove that is citizenship of an individual before treating them. But at least let's have free healthcare for Americans. So guys, tell me in the comment section what you think about Democrats fighting for us or Americans against this government. Because this government doesn't care about me and you. All this government cares about is giving tax cut to billionaires, right? All it cares is about dividing us behind racial lines, Epstein files, so that we can forget about the real issues which are affecting us. Which are affecting us. That's what they want us to forget. So tell me what you believe in the comment section. I'll be waiting. I'll be reading. Yes, tell me your thoughts in the comment section.